Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is the Steve Jones Show on a Thursday. News Radio 1070 WKOK. Matt Catrillo here with you. Steve will soon be there from the Sunbury Motors Studio. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And online at sunburymotors.com. Getting into more Penn State wrestling today. You just heard from Cael Sanderson in the update. We'll get to more of his presser coming up in just a little bit here with Steve, and we've got more coming up. Cael Sanderson.
Oh, yes, we'll have that. We're going to check in on the situation in Jacksonville. Got a reporter on, covers the Jags. Yeah. The James Harden trade. Got a lot with that. We got Jerry Brewer from the Washington Post on that. We'll hear from Cael Sanderson. No meet this weekend. I know some people were surprised by that. And I'll be honest with you, I knew about it Saturday. So that's why I was very cautious about it as time went. I was like, not so sure they're going to be able to do it. It's okay. They'll be back. They'll make up for it somewhere. Again, that's why I kept emphasizing yesterday over and over again the 4-match thing. That's one of the certain things I say that there's a reason why I say it, and that was one of them. That's why I talked about the 4-match thing. You can qualify as long as you get 4. That's important. So we'll hear from Cael coming up. And just for peace of mind, while the Jaguars are out interviewing legitimate coaches, we'll stay away from the No?
At least they made one smart move when I bring in Urban Meyer.
You do know Urban Meyer can coach, correct?
I've had enough of him.
You've had enough of him?
Yeah.
Why have you had enough of him?
Because of his, I just don't really trust him right now. I don't know how anybody can trust him between his health issues and his not too distant past of how things ended at Ohio State. I don't see one iota of trust in him right now.
Well, you do know in the NFL you don't recruit.
I know, but I don't know. It just things about him just have rubbed me the wrong way. Can he coach? Yes, I'm not denying that, but I just.
Let me put it this way. Can I just say this about Urban Meyer for a moment? What have I always said about the best analysts out there? And there are a lot of people that are just very generic in analysis and get away with it. Okay, the best analysts, I know because I work with 2 of them. Okay? I work with Dick Girardi, and I work with Jack Ham. You know what makes the best analyst? Best analyst is the one that when the game is over with, you feel like you learn more about not just the game you're watching, but the game itself. Okay? Urban Meyer on that pregame show is the only guy I've listened to in the last few years that when the pregame show was over, I felt like I knew more about football. all right? There have been questions I have asked James Franklin, either at Quarterback Club or on a pregame show, that have been in part an offshoot of maybe a thing or two I heard from Meyer. I'll give you one. I'll give you a specific one I can give you from this past season. Meyer was talking about the Chris Davis play, and this is something I knew that James had done too. So this is not foreign, okay? That the Chris Davis play, where he ran back the field goal for a touchdown to beat Alabama, right? You know the play I'm talking about.
Yes.
Good. We're off to a good start then. Right. Okay. He said, look, he said, to be honest with you, he says, as a coach, we never really looked at that play before. He said, and we're like, holy mackerel. He said, so then we started incorporating it into our practice because just in case we ran into it, he says, because there are situations in games that are unusual. He said, and that's why you scout all of that. Situations that are unusual, you sit back and say, wow, we need to practice that because it came up. You're like, holy cow. Wow, I never really thought of that. He was talking about that in the pregame show. So I directly asked James that. I said, James, you can't look at every play yourself. I said, so do you have people on your staff that are specifically looking for unusual players or situations where you may not practice it, but you want your players to see it? And he said, Steve, we have a staff that works on that part all the time because crazy things happen in games. Now, excuse me, on game day, when has this ever been discussed? Okay, on game day, when has that ever been discussed? On game day, they talk about whether it's Tim Tebow's team or not. Okay, great. That's nice. You're wasting 3 hours of my time. It's the ability of a really good analyst makes you sit back and say, oh, okay. Right. I'll give you another one. Chase Young. He's at Ohio State. I know you're not a big fan.
Chase Young's with Washington now, but he's a heck of a player.
Right. But he's talking about, and he's showing, and he was doing it, showing the move, counter move, move, counter move. Same thing. Right? A lot of guys have their signature move, but do they have a counter off of it? So in terms of his football knowledge and his ability to explain his football knowledge, he was, to me, by my taste, far and away the best pregame show analyst on a Saturday. The guy knows what he's talking about. Now, he may not be your personality type. We all know about the physical problems. We all know he stepped away from Florida. My goodness, Jack and I broadcast his last game at Florida. That was against Penn State in the Outback Bowl. We know how things ended at Ohio State. But if you're Jacksonville, you've got him and you got Trevor Lawrence. You got a pretty good start. And not only that, you got the seal of approval of Philadelphia fans. They hate him. So if you've got that, you must be good.
I'm only one of many. So others could have a different opinion than me, but that's just me.
And by the way, that is the problem. That is the problem. That you're one of many.
One of many fans, Eagle fans, that is. I don't know if they shared the same sentiments as me.
Oh no, I know enough Eagles fans. I mean, you represent many of them. Randy Fichtner is out as the offensive coordinator of the Steelers. Sean Sarrett is out as the offensive line coach, and my old friend Tom Bradley is out as the defensive backfield coach. Here is the difference. The Steelers are in an interesting spot. They've been able to keep themselves relevant for the most part year in and year out for about 20-plus years. I think that'd be fair, right? They've kept themselves relevant. At this hour, you feel like they're the third best team in their own division. You feel like even though they finished ahead of Baltimore and Cleveland, the last 6 to 7 weeks you felt like they were getting passed out as Baltimore got hot and settled in and played well. Cleveland played well the entire time. Cleveland still had problems they did win a game at Dallas, but they're holding on. They beat the Steelers in Cleveland, but they were holding on. Well, they weren't holding on the other night. And it is now with 18 free agents, a quarterback that has certainly had his best days behind him. You have a problem. You don't have a great draft position. You don't have a great cap position. You have a quarterback that's good enough to win you games, but long term is he good enough to win you a playoff game? Now you're going to ask, is he good enough to get you to the playoffs? There's going to be roster turnover. It's not like they don't have some stars. Fitzpatrick's a star, Watt's a star, Ben Kenby. Those wideouts are really good, but their offensive line is a problem. And the running game's a problem. So they made those moves today. Now, the Steelers are still one up on the Eagles. They have a coach.
True. But I think they may want to rethink their head coach, too. But that's just me.
Why do you want to get rid of people? The guy just won 12 games, 4 more than last year, and you want him out. Why?
What?
He has kept you relevant year after year after year after year.
I just refer it back to, it's a little bit different, but I kind of go back to how things ended with Andy Reid, and I think it was 1 or 2 years too long. And I think the Steelers could be heading down that same path with Mike Tomlin. To go 11-0 and to finish the way they did, that to me, that is a fireable offense. And it's not like the Steelers have been great these last few years.
What? That's a fireable offense?
Absolutely. Going 1-5 after an 11-0 start and getting embarrassed like that at home to Cleveland? I'm sorry. I can't.
1-15 is a fireable offense, and Doug Marrone got fired.
Yes, as he should have. I just think it comes to a time where when you have a guy like Tomlin that's been there too long, it gets stale.
I'll be all kidding aside right now, Matt. All kidding aside. Okay? You always have to ask yourself, when you make a move, who am I going to get that is better? Okay? That's a big one. Who am I going to get? When Chip Kelly left, there was a lot of range as to who could be better. There was a lot of range as to who could be better. When Andy Reid left, there wasn't. You always have to ask yourself, whenever you make a move, is the person I'm bringing in better? Now, Doug Marrone has left Jacksonville. Urban Meyer looks like he's going to get the job. You feel like they're getting better. It's the same thing with a quarterback. Okay, we got to dump him. We got to get rid of him. Okay, who's better? Who are you bringing in that's better? Now, in Jacksonville, it's going to be going from Gardner Minshew to Trevor Lawrence. So, yes, you're getting better. Okay? It's going to be a big question in Washington. Who do I play at quarterback? When Washington made the move from Jay Gruden to Ron Rivera, did you feel off the bat they got better? Yes. But you always have to ask yourself, I'm making the move. It is easy, okay? It's the easy way out to do what you're talking about. That's easy. I can get rid of somebody. The hard part is coming up with the name that's better. That's the hard part. Sometimes the best decision you make is the decision you don't make. And as badly as you wanted Doug Peterson out, I disagree with you. I would not have made that move. Okay? That's just making a move to make a move. And I am not big on making moves just to make a move. I want to make moves with a purpose. Right now, the Eagles are looking around. They're going to interview Kellen Moore. You're going to tell me Kellen Moore is better than Doug Peterson?
For me, no, I don't get that one either.
You're gonna tell me Gerard Mayo's better? I mean, look at the list of people they're interviewing. Who's better?
For right now, nobody at the moment.
Buck Shaw passed away in 1977, so he's out. He was the last Eagles coach to win a National Football League championship. I mean, but that is the one question when you sit down in the conference room. You always have to ask certain questions. Okay, give me a list of people you think are better before I make this move. The next one is, I want to know from everybody here, come up with as many unintended consequences as possible. That's how you manage. What bothers me is that in saying that's how you manage, right now in the corner office, the suit's writing this down. Oh, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea.
I don't doubt that for a second.
Oh, I can't believe it. All right. We'll come back with more in a moment here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Today's show brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Lincoln, Kia, Hyundai. Great new inventory. Fabulous pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. All at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And online at sunburymotors.com. Iowa last year was ranked number 1. Penn State was not. Iowa won the Big Ten championship. Penn State did not. So would you fire Cael Sanderson, Matt?
Oh, no.
I mean, they fell off from the championship team. I mean, it also ran last year. I just want to make sure what your.
Yeah, no, he's done a tremendous job with the program.
I just feel it's a positive to get anything positive out of you these days. All right. Cael met with the media. Of course, they will not wrestle this weekend because the program's on pause, but this will give you a good read on a team that many not only follow but love. He was asked about the COVID protocols and how they've handled it so far.
Well, it's the board across the Big Ten. I believe everything's the same. When we compete, we're not wearing masks when we're actually wrestling in practice. Fortunately, we haven't been had to wear masks, but the kids do wear masks coming into practice, out of practice, every other second of the day, basically. When they're in the weight room, they're wearing masks. We're getting tested 6 times a week now. Now we're within a few weeks of competition, or that started when we were within a few weeks of competition. I haven't really looked at some of the details about, how they're going to or not. We just need to score some points, and we'll worry about that, at the end of the match. But I don't know if that really answers your question. But we're just kind of like everybody else. We're kind of just rolling with the punches and kind of learning as we go, and we'll see if anything is modified. But we're just looking forward, just an opportunity to compete and just see what we can do, and get these guys out of the rooms and let them go, attack some goals here.
Jim Carlson? Jim?
Yep, I'm here. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Hey, Cael, I see many schools are wrestling extra bouts either before or during the scheduled matches. Are you planning on wrestling with those extra guys, and might that be a way of seeing, what guys not in the starting lineup can do for you?
Yeah, I think we're very excited about that, actually. And under the circumstances, that would actually be a good portion of the last question, just that they've changed the protocol, which I think is really important, and they've really done a great job, the rules committee and leaders in the wrestling world. But say you were to miss the Big Ten tournament, you could still apply and get a wild card to the Nationals. But you have to have 4 matches to be considered for a wild card right now. So, assuming that there's going to be missed matches, unfortunately because of COVID, this just gives you a chance to get your starters those 4 matches, as well as getting because a positive COVID test and you're missing 17 days minimum. We've got a very condensed season here, obviously. So just having to get to that 4-match mark, and then being able to get potential backups or guys that would be anyone that has a chance of going to the conference tournament or the national tournament. They just need to get to that 4 number there. So yeah, we're gonna wrestle as many exhibition matches as we can each week, and that's it's a great blessing for the guys that aren't the starters this year. I'm excited about that. It just keeps everybody engaged, and maybe something we could look at doing as a sport moving forward. We'll see.
Okay, Mark Wogenrich, go ahead.
Well, excuse me, how are you? How would you describe this team this year? How has it changed since March?
I think that's hard to say right now. I'm excited about this group. I think it's a close group. There's obviously a lot of talent. We've got some new faces, and what we're trying to put together is that next wave that kind of can roll through and come together. And I think we have the leaders and the talent needed. In addition to that, the mindset to have a team that's going to go out there and be entertaining to watch and has the ability to score a lot of points. But we're not going to know that until we step on the mat and just kind of let these guys go. And then our plan is just obviously the same as every other year, is just compete and then improve each week. And that's what we're looking to do this year.
Hey, Cobbler.
Hey, Cael, hope all's well. How would you say the 2020 ending has kind of motivated this team for this year? Obviously the schedule's really condensed and things like that, but not having a true ending, I guess, to 2020, how much is that motivating guys like a Nick Lee or, any of those guys that are returning this year that couldn't make the postseason and stuff last year?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think last year was tough for everybody in a lot of different ways. Sports and college wrestling obviously is no exception. But it's just, you have another chance, right? And obviously we feel bad for the seniors who lost their opportunity, but everyone else kind of gets a redo. Brooks gets another shot. Nick Lee, those guys get another shot, the guys that weren't seniors that graduated. So But I'm hopeful they don't need extra motivation or a reason to want to be the best they can be, right? I think that's ingrained in them regardless of the circumstances. And everyone's in the same boat, so it doesn't really do us much good to talk about what we could have done or should have done or anything. It's just about moving forward and looking ahead here and just being the best we can be this year and making the most of this opportunity that we have ahead of us.
Jacob Ferriat?
Yeah, Cael, obviously, Rec Hall and the fans sort of known for their passion, their enthusiasm, things like that. Do you envision, not having fans there having any impact on your guys? I mean, I know you like to entertain and have your guys put on a show. What do you think that's going to be like, not having fans?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a different feel. And, but, wrestling's wrestling wherever it is, whenever it is, and it's competition. So, the same things are on the line. I saw a coach answer this somewhere, and they said it's kind of more like practice, right? So I don't think it's going to be. Yeah, it's going to be a little different, but the same things are on the line, and we're trying to reach some goals and be the best team that we can possibly be here, fans or no fans. And we know that we have, and they know. I mean, this is this age group and these kids, and they know that people are watching. I mean, even if they're watching online, they're used to that stuff. So whether they're in the arena or not, there's going to be a lot of people watching and following the sport this year. I think it's going to be a really exciting year, especially with the NCAA making this a free year of eligibility. I know that changed our lineup because our kids, a lot of them weren't really willing, and I don't blame them at all, obviously, for not wanting to risk not having a season. So we had guys that were planning on taking Olympic red shirts and redshirting pretty much everybody that we could. That was going to be the case. But as soon as they make it a free year, why not? Let's go. So you're seeing that across the board, and so everybody's best team for the most part, I would assume, it is wrestling this year. In the sport of wrestling, where you have 9.9 scholarships, and you take red shirts out and injuries or whatever else is a part of that, you don't always have your best teams. That's just the nature of the sport, and honoring your word to kids. If they want a red shirt, you let them red shirt, kind of a deal. But this year it's everybody's best team, so that's exciting.
And Surface?
Hey, Cael. So obviously this season was kind of up in the air for a little bit there. So how were you able to keep your guys and your coaching staff motivated the same way they would be in any normal season?
Yeah, it was. We were trying to do whatever we could, just to keep the kids excited, and just because there was just so much uncertainty and a lot of question. I think for the most part they were assuming there wasn't going to be a season, and at least in our experience, in my experience, the worst thing that youth can have, probably all of us, is just nothing to do and free time. Right, that's when you start getting into trouble. So, we were working as hard as we could to just create some events in other ways, just to keep them busy and having something to look forward to, and to have some goals, just so they could stay motivated. Obviously, when the NCAA announced and we started seeing football come back in the Big Ten, and then we knew that basketball and hockey was going to roll, and we knew that we were going to have the opportunity also. But yeah, it's just a lot of training and for coaches and the different rules, you're in the wrestling room all day long because of the numbers that you can have. And it's been definitely the busiest year of my life, without any question, just because of, just the limitations that you can have. And, we're all over the place. Things have calmed down now, but it's definitely been a challenging year for everybody. But, we love what we do. I love what I do. So, whether it's practice or competition, we're having a good time.
Travis Johnson?
Hey, Cael, just to kind of follow up on something you just said there, is, I guess, part of that struggle trying to maximize the practice reps you guys have? Because, and usually it's a long season, right? And you guys have tons of matches to look at and tweak things over a long time span, where you won't have that this year. Yeah,
there's definitely a lot of different things to consider. And, I felt like our guys were in really good shape. A couple of them competed in some NLWC events, and they were in such good shape. We were actually a little concerned, thinking normally we wouldn't be in this good of shape in October, right? So we kind of had to scale some things back a little bit and make some adjustments. But more than anything, we just want to get started and compete, because that's where we're going to, see where we really practice is great. And obviously you see a lot and you learn a lot about your team, but you really, you're going to learn the most when we're competing against other opponents and kind of, in that true battle. So we're looking forward to just wrestling somebody besides ourselves.
Lauren Muthler.
Hi, Cael.
Hello.
Do you have an idea of, what your starting lineup might be for Rutgers? Are there weights that are still contested? And, who are some guys you might be excited to introduce Penn State wrestling fans to this season?
Yeah, we don't have our lineup set as of yet. I think, if you follow the program, you probably have a pretty good idea. Some of the weight classes that are a little more contested or similar to what we had last year, I would guess. We just got some good young kids coming up, as you've seen. Some, we're actually fairly young as a program, yeah, I won't go through the lineup, but this is one of those years as well that we're gonna have to set our lineup as we compete, and we throw as many guys out there as we can, getting those exhibition mats, and just try to figure out what our best lineup is before we head into the postseason. But yeah, we have some weight classes that are a little bit more competitive. Obviously, there's some that aren't, but we have some good quality depth this year that we're excited about.
Clay Sauertig.
Hey, Cael, regarding the exhibition matches, first off, is there a limit on the number of exhibition matches at each duel? And additionally, how big are those going to be for some of the younger wrestlers that would normally be going to open tournaments this season?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't really know. I thought that, obviously we haven't competed yet, but I saw some of the other programs that competed last week had close to 10 matches. And I thought the Big Ten, I'm not the person probably to ask these questions to. I should know them. But I think as of now, our only limitations was that we could only hire 2 officials. So, that was kind of the cost savings from the conference, kind of the recommendation there. So, but based on what we saw last week, I think we're going to get as many matches as we can. And it made sense as well. If you're going to wrestle in the actual dual meet, you have to weigh in an hour before the match. So I think the exhibitions have to take place after as opposed to before, and just some different guidelines that make sense. But I do think you're going to see a replacement of kids that normally would be redshirting, but now they're challenging for a spot because there's no reason why they wouldn't, right? So it's all hands on deck. You're wrestling your best team. And so I think everybody's basically in the same category as far as if you're the best guy and you have the best chance to score points for the team, you're wrestling.
Shannon Scoville.
Yes, thank you so much, Cael. You mentioned some of the summer events that your team has hosted. What do you think is the biggest thing that your guys have gained from those opportunities to compete?
Yeah, I think it was just something for them to look forward to, and just to change things up a little bit and wrestle some good quality competition and just kind of test themselves and see how they would compete against outside competition. So nothing really, more than anything, it was just, and even we run 2 programs. We run the Navy Line Wrestling Club too with our staff. So we're trying to figure out how do we our post-grads ready for the Olympic trials and the Olympic Games when they, they're kind of in that same boat. There aren't a lot of competitions available. Things are starting to open up now. So it was just an opportunity to compete, shake some dust off, refocus, and just kind of, more than anything, have something to look forward to and train for.
Kim Carlson.
So, Cael, you were saying that, guys are in pretty good shape. You only have 9 dates, but yet it's, a rugged Big Ten. So you think those 9 dates are enough to get ready for the postseason, and maybe have you increase live wrestling in the practice room?
Yeah, I think that's enough. I think you're going to adjust regardless of the situation, regardless of how many matches you have. So, and everyone's in the same boat. So, we're not going to overthink it. We're just going to, I feel like we're ready to go now, but obviously the goal is to be ready to go in March, and just building towards that and improving as we move along here and compete.
Nate Cobbler.
Cael, what type of you said this obviously being a free year, you're probably going to see every team's best lineups, things like that. I mean, do you foresee a lot of freshmen in the starting lineup as opposed to these exhibition matches, or can you tell us like what your thought process is when you're kind of putting together the lineups for the Doles and things like that?
Well, yeah, I think we're Penn State, and we want to we've got the team aspect. Obviously, that's first and foremost, and our kids are going to get more out of their own individual careers if they're thinking more about the team. So we want to win these dual meets and be the best we can be and improve, but obviously improve as we progress towards the end. Freshman or senior, the best guys are going to compete. So, and the kids that compete with the right attitude, the kids that compete that are looking to score points, that are representing the program in the way that we're trying to look, I guess. But yeah, I mean, we have freshmen that will be competing at obviously 25, 41, 49, and then we have some redshirt freshmen. Obviously guys like Carter and Aaron Brooks is a freshman again, kind of. So it's nice, and kind of along that line, guys like Joe Lee are still freshmen. Mike Beard's a freshman. So we've got a lot of freshmen. Greg Kirkfleet's a freshman. So we've got a lot of freshmen that could very likely kind of lead this team, and we've got the great leadership of a guy like Nick Lee back, and so we're grateful for that. Roman's had a lot of experience and will be a great leader for us also. So Bergie's back and looking good, healthy. So that was something that we obviously less than a year ago, we weren't sure if we'd see him back. So yeah, we should have a fun team. I mean, there's going to be some very competitive teams also, which makes it more exciting. But we like what we have now.
That's Cael Sanderson. We'll come back. We'll talk about Urban Meyer to the Jags next half hour. Final half hour of the Harden trade to the Nets, and trying to keep Matt from going off the rails. That's a constant battle here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
2020 was not what anyone expected, nor did Sunbury Motors Kia think they would have their best new Kia sales in the last 22 years. SMC's success is because of PPP. No, not the loan, but people, product, and price. We have the same great people. Now listen to the product and price for 2021. Choose from 11 2021 Kia Fortes starting at $18,665, saving you $2,640. The Kia Sportage all-wheel drive is discounted up to $3,775. Sportages start at $23,490 with 22 in stock. You have to see the all-new redesigned 2021 Kia Sorento, now with available second-row captain's chair. Buy this midsize all-wheel drive SUV for $31,990. 2021 will be even better because of PPP. People, product, and price. Sunbury Motors Kia on the Golden Strip, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf.